Wait till I get my money right.
What's up? Welcome to the Paper Room Podcast, episode 5, y'all.
Yeah.
5.
And for the first time ever on the Paper Room Podcast, we have a very special guest with us, Miss Cristian Farias.
Hey, y'all.
There will never be another first-time guest.
That's true.
Ooh, that's so awesome.
She's
special.
the first.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
It took me a little bit to understand what you just said. I only had a half a cup of coffee this morning. But yeah, you're so right. There will never again be a first-time guest on the Paper Room Podcast. Christina, you're doing this and excited that you're here for us. Just kind of recasting the vision of why we're doing what we're doing. The whole purpose of this podcast is to help young adults navigate the craziness of life as they're deciding what school to go to, what career to go after, what person to marry, all that craziness, all that good stuff, all while prayerfully following Jesus. Mm-hmm. Our goal with all this is to help young adults navigate their journey in life. And today we are talking about a very special topic that I think is going to be great. And so before y'all, just think this does not apply to me, we are talking about the topic of money.
Wow.
Yes.
Money.
Money. Wait till I get my money right. And we have a author of the Money Funnel System, the Common Sense Guide to Financial Organization, Mrs. Cristian Farias, who also co-authored this with your husband, Jaime, right? And man, we are excited to get into this conversation because one of the things we talked about, and we keep referencing, Nick's 9 rules of dating, but one of your rules was talk money, right?
Yep.
In that dating process, you want to get engaged, all that good stuff. Money is an important conversation to go after. And I wish when I was like, in that younger 20s that I listened to people like
me too.
I think people gave me advice, especially Summer when we started dating. But a lot of times I didn't listen. With Summer and I always joke that every time I got a paycheck, I went to go buy comic books. And she saw that as we were dating, and it just was one of those things where she was like, "This guy does not know how to save money," and she was 100% right about that.
Wow.
I remember even like at the age of like 20, I wanted an Xbox. I didn't have money for it, so what did I do? I went to the bank and I got a credit card. Right, I know it.
Dun dun dun.
And I think even in your book, you say like credit card is not free money. And I didn't understand any of that. But I was just like, hey, like why not? And so understanding money, understanding a credit score, understanding how to use the money that you have, whether you make a lot of money or whether you're making minimum wage working part-time, it's important to steward what God has given you through all this. And so this is a very important conversation, and thank you, Christina, for joining us for today's episode. So let's get into the conversation. Let's talk about it. Christina, I recently read your book, The Money Funnel System. It is phenomenal, practical stuff. Great read. And so I'd love for you to kind of get into the motivation and really the story behind you and Jaime, you and your husband, of why you created this system.
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that it was out of a deep need for change. Many times we say, oh, I need to change. Oh, I need to change my finance. And we don't do anything. And that's where we were for many years in our marriage. We would see we would get to the end of the month and say, where did all of our money go? Or I'd forget to pay a bill because I didn't see it in the mail, or, we'd say, oh, we got paid, let's go out, right? Let's spend our money. And without realizing that, we have bills coming, we weren't tithing. We did not tithe at that time. And so it wasn't until the rug got pulled out from under us, it felt very literally, when my husband lost his job. And that's when I was already a stay-at-home mom at that time. And so our income stream stopped.
So you did this married with kids too. So
we had already had 2. I was pregnant with our 3rd child when Jaime lost his job.
Wow.
We had I used to work for a lawyer. He was an engineer. Then we both went into teaching. Then we went on to a single income, and we lived off of one teacher's salary with 1 child. And then he went to the oil field thinking, hey, I can make some better money. If we make more money, we'll have,
more stuff. Yeah.
Right. We can do more things. Side note, it's not about what you make, it's what you do with it.
Ooh.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, truthfully, that really is. And so, but lost his job. And so we had some money saved, but you don't know how long that's going to last you. And so when after about 3 months, he acquired a new job. Praise God. He's still there and he loves it.
3 months. Like you say that so quick, but that's a long 3 months.
Yeah.
And
That's
it was
90 days.
yeah. And it was really longer, I think, for him because he carried the weight of I'm the breadwinner, right? I'm supposed to be caring for my family. I felt a tremendous amount of peace, not in the fact that, we have savings or we have this, but I just felt like the Lord is going to do something. Like, I don't think our suffering is ever for nothing.
Right.
And so I really just said, Lord, you're going to do something. And meanwhile, Jaime's like cutting yards, he was cutting yards. He was doing whatever he could. And so after about a month into his new job, he called me. He's like, I'm on the side of the road and I have this idea. And then
God did something.
Wow.
Yes. It was God. And so he got home. He said, this is what we need to do. He started laying it all out. And I was like, this is like genius. Why did we never do this before? Because it's so basic, yet so like, I don't know. It elevates your finances, really.
Come on.
So yeah, that was, and so we started running the system. We started talking to people about it. Jaime and I would be at night like, babe, I feel like we have more money. Like it feels like we got a raise, but we didn't. But it was because of the clarity that you
did
gained.
get a raise. You raised your mind.
And even
really
like the
did.
feeling of it, just it just puts you more at peace, more at ease.
Yeah.
Like just the feeling of something that's there. And so this conversation is so important. I think that when it comes to like young adults, as we talk about our main audience, they're navigating life, and some of the things that we know about young adults is as they're pursuing colleges or pursuing a career. One of the things that we're looking at is that like 4 out of 10 young adults say they actually use their college degree for their career,
Right.
And so they're going after these goals, they're following their dreams as culture keeps telling them to do, and then they're getting all this debt that's like building up from college to go work a job that maybe they didn't even understand they were going to go after or know what to do. And so this is important to understand, like whether you're working a part-time job, like you said, whether you have a lot or you're making a lot of money or not making a lot of money, this is important. And so can you explain what the money funnel system is? Like, so Jaime had this thought, had this vision,
Right.
had this dream, and so explain it to us. I pray that young adults will read this book. I don't know if they will, but maybe listen to this
Right.
podcast and maybe motivate them to read this book. And so explain it to us, even in a way that is so simple, like like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Yeah,
So 5-year-old. So we're going to talk toys for a second
Oh,
because
that
that's
makes
the
sense.
language of a
Okay.
5-year-old.
And Isha was talking Toy Story earlier.
Yeah, there you go. So you have, your large box of toys. We used to keep all of our kids' toys in one large box because I thought, hey, it's all in one place. It's, cool. But what happens is, let's say we've got Barbies, we've got toy trains, and we've got Legos. And one kid wants the Barbies. Well, what are they going to have to do?
Dig
They're
through it all.
digging through, right? So they don't really have an understanding of what Barbie toys they have in there. They know there's some Barbies in there, but they don't know really what. So they have to dump it all out. So there's chaos,
nice.
uncertainty, right? No control. And so they can get their toys. Well, what we do instead is we have a box for each category of toys. So our toys have a place and a purpose. Okay? Place and purpose. The Barbies go in this box, in this side of the room. The Legos go in this box, in this side of the room. And the blocks, trains, whatever, go in this box. So when a kid needs a toy, they can go directly to the source, pull out the toy, they know what they got, and be done. There's no mixing of toys. There's no fighting over, well, you took my toys. And no, because everything is in its place. And so that's how the system works with our money. We take our set amount of money and we divide it into a place and a purpose. We have our
Nice.
payments account, which the purpose is to make those monthly payments. So that may be, your car payment, your insurance, your cell phone, your electricity, rent, whatever, car payment, whatever your set payments are that you have to pay. Like there's no maybe I'll, no, you have to pay this. And then you determine how much you have left over. And that would fall into your spending account. And that's really the reality. We call this living within your financial reality.
Yes.
Because when we look at a single typically people have one checking account, one savings. But for us, our savings was we're running out of money here. Let's just
Put it back in there.
But yeah. And so, rather than going back and forth with that, you take out the money you need to have for those payments, you separate it, and then you can look at your leftover. And then, okay, you want that Xbox? Hey, let's look at our spending.
Why do you got to come at me like that?
Oh, let me think of it different. You want that coffee? Oh, sorry. Is
Same
that
guy. It's like the two Spider-Man. Like,
There's two other people here.
you're just, in my, but whatever it is, you want to eat out, you want to, whatever, you look at your spending because that's how much you
versus
actually
the whole,
have. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one, I think you just wrote your second book, The Toy Funnel System for kids.
Hey,
children.
yeah.
We need to come
And
up
I will
with
read that
one
because I'm
for-
about to be a dad. Amen.
Yeah.
And so I need to read that one. And I love that you said that, like don't live beyond your means, and
Right.
that's your spending. When Summer and I moved to New York, I met a guy there that he was just a local New Yorker for all his life, and one of the first things he told me when we moved there is don't live beyond your means
Yeah.
because there's so
Yeah.
much to do there, right?
Yeah.
And you're
Yes.
so enamored by everything,
Yeah.
and that always stuck out to me, that phrase, and I love that. So the main idea is you think about everything that you need to pay for,
Right.
all the main bills, and even going down to like, all right, if you want a gym membership or things like that, you can throw all that stuff in there
anything.
too,
Your
right?
tithe
100%,
absolutely goes out of, because what we would do when we would tithe was, well, what do we have left over?
Yes.
So we,
wow.
people have said it before. You're giving God your leftovers, and when you think about it, He's asking you for 10%. I mean, 10%, and letting you use and steward the other 90, not just keep it,
Right.
but
Yeah.
He's letting you use it,
That's
and
really
that's
good.
where stewardship, comes from. But yeah, I mean, it definitely needs to be a line item in there.
That's good. So then you take all that, come up with that lump sum, and then you take the rest of it. That's your spending account. I know one thing in the book that you talked about that I'd love to hear from you, really on a personal level, is you. So once you figure out that lump sum, and in the book, the number you use a lot is like, let's say $3,000
Right.
is that lump sum. You have $5,000 that you make in a month, whether you're single or a married couple. That's your
Right.
total. $3,000 is your bills and everything you need to pay for.
Yes.
$2,000 you're spending. You also kind of mentioned of like, if you have it in savings, to kind of put that total amount already in that lump sum,
Yeah, front load
and
it.
kind of like build it.
Yes.
So can you kind of elaborate, explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So we always say this is the hardest part of the system. If there is anything that is difficult to do, it is putting that lump sum in there in advance. We did it because once my husband lost his job, he realized you cannot count on a job. You never know. I think
Yeah.
when COVID hit, people that was a
Oh,
big
yeah.
That's
reality.
really good. Your job is never your source.
Never.
That's
And so you always, and it's not to live in fear. It's not to live like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to lose my job today. It's just to recognize that we need to plan a bit. We need to be, again, stewards of this money and not just fly through it as if, we get caught up in the YOLO
Yeah,
attitude,
that's good.
Yeah.
and yeah, we only live once.
Or you're
But
only
it's-
going to be young once.
Yes.
Like, I think young adults especially, are thinking like, oh, I'll
Then
figure
you
it
be
out when I
old
get
broke.
older, when I get married, But
Yeah,
Jeez.
and that's the thing. I mean, we're all going to age, God willing, right? We're all going to reach to that retirement age. And so when we first implemented this, we knew, okay, our financial reality is not like, hey, we're not, making big bucks. We need to be conscientious of what we're spending. And so our goal was buy what we need now so we can have what we want later.
Say that one more
Because,
time for the people. For me.
Buy what we need now in this, where we're at now, so we can have what we want later, have what we want. Because we realized this is not the time in our life to be flying through money, to be thinking we need to be driving the nicest vehicles, living in the biggest homes, wearing the best clothing. This is our time to invest in our future. And that's when, the sobering reality that we only make so much money. Like we can't,
Yeah.
and so that's what this really does, is bring you back down to giving you that clarity of what you've got, and then helping you control how you spend it.
Can you talk about that needs versus wants? Because that's very powerful. Those are two words that I think, man, get me in trouble.
Because I need coffee before I wake up in the morning.
Right.
That's like the number one phrase that young adults.
Right.
Young adults
Well,
need to use.
like I said, we throw around the word "I need this" like we throw around "I love you," right? And we know we throw "I love you" around a bit too easily. And so, just recently, we with our kids, and we're going to do it for us too. Our daughters have this bad habit of leaving their clothes everywhere, and they have a lot of clothes. And so we finally pulled everything out, and we left them with 25 articles of clothing. And we said, y'all are going to have to make this work, right? You're going to have to make us work. You're going to have to show us, like Scripture says in Luke, that you can be trusted with little things, a few things, and we'll trust you with more things. This ties into the fact that they don't need 50 items of clothing in their closet. They have 30, and they're fine. And so we have to clarify what is a real need versus a want. And I think when we look at some things happening in the world, we can kind of say, yeah, I have more than what I need, really.
Right.
And so this separates your payments should categorize as your need. Now, you might have a car payment in there or a gym membership, right? And if worse came, if things got really bad, we would cancel, right? We would cancel gym memberships. We would cancel dance, whatever.
Right.
Netflix.
But yes.
Nobody pays for that.
Yeah, I was about to say, y'all, that's $10 anyway.
Disney, whatever.
Everybody
But you know, those would be canceled, and we would, what do we need? We need a roof over our heads. We need to pay our rent or mortgage.
We talked about that last night. So many young people don't want to get married because they say they're not financially ready.
Right.
You got to identify what does that mean.
Right. And we can always. You can always say, "Well, I'm not ready," right? But maybe it's not so much that you're not ready; it's that you're not being active in what you've got. It's easy. We can all Jaime and I can look around and say, oh, we don't have, this, or we don't have that. And we're not, but really, again, when you look at your needs, that you have what you need versus you have what you want.
Yeah.
It clarifies things when
That's
you
good.
kind of take a step back.
I love that we have a Heavenly Father who knows what you need, as the Sermon on the Mount tells us.
Yeah.
Some of the statistics in the book that you throw out are incredible. I'm a big stat guy. That's the running joke of this podcast, ready? But you mentioned that 67% of Americans don't save money. Yeah. I would love to even scale that down to young adults. Like, how many young adults right now who are maybe working, part-time at Chick-fil-A or already have a full-time job post-college are actually starting to save money? And the other stat you say is that the number one cause of divorce is money fights and money problems, right? More money, more problems, as the Notorious B.I.G. said it. Did you guys have any sort of financial system prior to creating this? And also, how has this system helped you flourish in your marriage?
Yeah, we had zero system. We were just getting by, and by the grace of God, really, because again, we weren't tracking. We were just spending until we got to the end of the month, and we were like, oh shoot, where did that go? And that was it. That was our and my husband already had some financial savvy in him. He was not a big spender. When we were dating, I always joke with him. The first time we went out on a date, he's like, hey, you want to split a plate? And I was like...
He's like, 2 for $20.
All right, okay. Yeah, I guess, right? And so we always split plates. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, no,
this is kind of romantic.
We're splitting.
And so... or I would go to work, he'd call me, and when we were both on lunch break, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go pick up lunch. And he's like, well, you didn't pack lunch? Well, no, just going to go pick something up. He always packed his lunch. And so already we were definitely different.
That's why we say talk money when you're dating.
Yes. And notice those red flags, because he caught that in me, and he would tell me sometimes he would even pack me a lunch from his house. That was,
And then he left it on the table on purpose.
And he would bring it to me.
I forgot it.
Because we worked across the street from each other. So he would bring me a packed lunch, because he knew I never had money. I was always like, I don't have money. And then he'd sit back I wonder why.
I got you, baby.
Yeah. So
Lunchable right here.
So we had nothing really. We had nothing. it wasn't until, again, kind of like it says in the book, necessity is the mother of all invention. And that's where the system came in. But what it has done for us is it's given us this new sense of communication. We talk, I mean, I will call him sometimes in the morning and be like, hey, I'm just going to go buy a coffee. And he's like, all right. And so we tell each other like everything that we spend, not because we feel like we have to, but because we hold one another accountable, you know, and it's not, I'm not asking him for permission. He's not asking me. We're just communicating like you want in a marriage, you know? And so, it's done that for us. And then ultimately it's held us accountable to being obedient to God with the tithe. And I would say that is one of the greatest things that it has done for us, because as we have recognized this has changed our whole mindset on how we look at money. And you can, and I mean, changing your mindset at a young age, when we're talking to young adults, that's where it needs to start, because God is giving you this money. There's a verse in Psalms that really impacted me, and I think it's 27:25, and it says, the earth and everything in it, all of its inhabitants belong to the Lord.
That's right.
So does our money.
Yeah.
And so when we start to recognize that our money is not for our sole benefit, yes, we can enjoy it, but it's for the benefit of God's kingdom. What can we do? How can we use it for God's kingdom? And that might be as a single person, you know, being just a testimony to financial freedom, to financial peace as a single person, to being a testimony of to contentment, to raising a family where you're not, you know, burdened by expenses, because kids are expensive.
Yes.
FYI. And so it just, when you change that mindset, you know, and I think that that's what this does ultimately. Let's say it organizes your finances, but it causes you to take a different look at your finances.
That's good. Isha, I would love for you to ask the question that you had. Let's see.
Yeah, so like I like that you said right now that it starts right now, like as we're college young adults,
Right.
and the fact that you guys didn't start this until you were married with kids. If you could go back, in time, and if you could give some advice to a young adult, like that's like, okay, I'm getting a paycheck and I can't stop spending it because this is the first time I've had my own money. You know, like this is the first time I've gotten steady like income. What would you like a 1 or 2 line type of like advice that you would give to a young adult?
Well, I would say just recognize that what the world is selling you is not truth.
That's good.
I mean, because I think that that's where a lot of it comes from. We want to keep up with the Joneses. And now we're not talking about like a suburban family. We're talking about college-age kids, right? We see all these Instagram stories. I think you had mentioned it earlier. And it's not, like, that's not reality, right? For everyone. Yeah. Like, that may be for some,
right,
but that's not everyone.
Everybody ain't got to travel all everywhere.
And so be okay with your reality. Just be okay with that. Because I was in college, and thank God I did not have college loans, but I worked all through college, paid my way. My parents helped some, but ultimately, I mean, I was not living the high life in college. I was driving around a car that was given to my family by a nun. It was like a 1980 Dodge Shadow. If anybody even Google that and see what
Google it.
Never heard of that car.
Okay, yeah, that's why it was.
But it was prayed over and prayed up.
It was free,
Amen.
And it got me from Mission to Edinburgh to Pan Am. And, you know, of course, part of me was like, dude, this car sucks, right? Because I was 20, right? I wanted to be cool. But at the same time, like, this gratitude I felt just overshadowed that. And so if you can learn to be thankful for the reality that you have and make it work for you, that's it. Like, that's what you need. And then start the money funnel system,
Amen.
you know, because you can organize. It doesn't matter what money you're bringing in, you can organize it. You can decide, I'm going to put this for my bills. I'm going to leave this left over for me, and definitely start an emergency account because, you know, as young adults, car issues come up, medical, whatever.
What amount would you say is good in building an emergency account? Like, what would be a tangible goal to go after?
So, I mean, we usually subscribe to what some of the big, financial gurus would say. So they say start with 1,000, and then maybe from there, once you have that and you have other things established, go to 3 to 6 months. We keep 3 to 6 months of our payments account amount. Here's like a little side note on that. Your payments account, again, is every extra monthly payment. So it could be like a subscription service. Now, if you lost a job, you better be canceling those subscriptions, right? Like, I don't want to hear you're like, oh, I got my Netflix at least. No, like, cancel that, right? You cancel that.
Because they ain't just going to sit there watching Netflix and not even try to find
Exactly. So
and you get hungry when you watch Netflix.
Exactly. So you cancel all of the like non-necessities.
That's good.
But your amount balance is based off of the full amount. So you've really given yourself more than that 3 to 6. And that's, for us, that was important because, again, if we were to lose our income, which would be like the worst case, right? If your income stops, you have that coverage.
Well, speaking of emergency, if, a young adult is living at home, they're maybe going through college, or maybe they're done with college, but they're still living at home. And they're in a family situation where they know their parents are not, they're struggling financially, but they're working, they're getting a stable paycheck. Maybe they're even making more money than their parents. Like, what kind of boundaries, if any, would you advise a young adult to have, because it is their income, but then they feel that obligation to support, to help their parents because of what they've done for them.
Right.
And then even if somebody moves out and they still feel that like, oh, I can't just like live here on my own being good if I know that my family's struggling, like how would you like attack that kind of struggle?
So I can definitely relate to that personally. I just on different levels. I would say, one, it is an individual thing, so there's no like umbrella answer for this. It really depends on the circumstances. If you're living with your parents, like if they're allowing you to live there, ultimately for free, then I do feel like we need to have a little skin in the game, right? Like we need to have a little appreciation of what is being given to us. And so helping out your parents in that way, I think is not a bad, even if it's just pitching in for food or electricity, whatever. But when you see your family members who are struggling financially, it's kind of like you also have to build yourself out of that, because that can be like a generational type of curse, in my opinion. This financial umbrella. I have seen families, again, this is somewhat personal too, where there is this kind of shadow of like, well, it is what it is. We're just poor. And we're just going to stay like this, right? And you just settle in that. And so I don't think we should accept that as young adults.
Right.
Even if our parents choose to accept it, that's on them. But for us, or as a young adult, we can choose to say, you know what? Like, I'm not going to live under this umbrella, and I'm going to work my way out of it. And so that means, you have to take that money for yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't help, right? So that's where I think, if it's like a repeat help where you're constantly giving money and they're not paying the bills with it, or they're not, then you have that boundary to set and say, you know what, I've helped this much, I can't continue.
Being wise with your giving.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. And I love that you said,
good.
Kind of that mindset of working your way, like have a goal, like, all right, like that generational curse, that's a phrase. And I think that young adults, when it comes to not just money, but we even talked about it with marriage. One of the questions that a young adult asked yesterday during our Q&A is how do I know my marriage won't fail like my parents did? And it's that generational curse that you can still work your way out of that. When it comes to the topic of finances and money, I think one of the opposite spectrums of that is now like you live this life, you don't want that type of thing, but now you're going to have your career, and you're going to have 4 side hustles, you're going to have 5 streams of income, and that's the culture that we now live in, is that by the age of 30, you don't want to get married, you want to make sure that you're financially stable, which is a good goal to have. But you're also like, your goal is like, all right, I'm going to be a millionaire by the age of 30, no matter what it takes type of thing. What are kind of your thoughts on, I guess, that mindset of having multiple streams of income, of having those side hustles type of thing?
I mean, it's all good, right? It's all good until it starts to control your heart.
That's
and
great.
It's like, what does the Bible say? The Bible doesn't say money is bad, which I used to interpret it as that. Like, money is bad. Don't talk about money. I don't want people to think it's important to me. But that's not what it says. It says that the love of money. And you mentioned that.
Yeah, I have it here.
In
It's
Hebrews.
Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from the love of money. Be satisfied with what you have.
Yes.
For he himself has said, I will never leave you or abandon you.
And there is a power in the word satisfied.
Oh.
Like I look at my life today, and we don't have luxury vehicles. We don't have, our house isn't even 2,000 square feet, and there's 6 people in our house right now. We are looking for a larger home. I will throw that out there, right? But I look at what we have now. My vehicle's an '06. Like, there's nothing according to the world standards that about my life that should really satisfy me, because it's not flashy, it's not expensive, it's not whatever. But I have never felt so satisfied in my life.
That's a good word.
And living under boundaries. The world tells us, live life, right? Live life.
Yeah.
Spend the money, get the credit card, get the debt, whatever. Enjoy your life. But there is no freedom in that kind of like relishing in that pleasure, because what happens? You get this shadow. I feel like you get this blanket, this weight of the burden of debt and the burden of like always running. Like, you're always chasing after your bills, trying to catch up to pay them.
Chasing after your bills. Wow.
And I don't want that. And so I sit and I can be satisfied in the fact that our bills are paid. We have a roof over our head. We have clothes on our back. Our kids are fed. What more?
That's good.
Is there really?
I have a question, getting into some practical things, like when you all made this decision and you jumped all in and you emptied the savings to front load the payments account.
Right.
Like, give us a meal idea. Like, what did you eat? How did you keep it? How did you keep it, diverse? Like, some people say rice and beans, rice. Like, what did you guys do?
Luckily, it didn't get that bad.
Okay.
Can of beans.
But the time that we like buckled down is when we were paying off our mortgage. So once we got the system in place, we realized, hey, we've got extra money. We don't have to see. People think I have extra money, I should spend it. You don't have to spend it, right? You don't have to go to Target or go wherever. I don't know. Target is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
You don't have to, right? You can invest it. You can pay off debt with it. You can, there's, and so what we chose to do was, hey, we have $42,000 left on our mortgage. Let's make a goal and pay that off in a year.
Wow.
Why not? Right? Like, for us, we were like, got our bills paid. Everything else is in order. Let's try. And so we shot everything that we had at that. So we cut limited birthday parties for our kids, for ourselves. We did not go out of town. We did not travel. We took our tax return, Christmas bonus, any extra that came in, we threw it at the mortgage and we paid it off.
Wow.
To this day, we're like, how did we do that? Because your salary
Right.
is only this. And we were doing the
That's
math and we're
awesome.
like, but that's God. And that's God because, and we were tithing at that time. And so I just absolutely
There
believe
you
that
go.
was,
Yeah.
God's faithfulness in that, but I mean, it's just it's just simply like cutting the fat, right? Cutting out those things that you don't need. And that's what we tell people. Sometimes to front load, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, but we get scared by the word sacrifice. But to me, I look at it as like challenge. Okay, let's sacrifice. Let's challenge ourselves to do this. And you'd be surprised with what you can do.
That's good. I want to get into this a little bit, and I'm not sure how much of a thought or opinion you have on this, but I think I know for me personally, when I was a young adult, one thing I did not understand was like a credit score. And I may be wrong in assuming that maybe most young adults don't even know what that is, why that's important, or even how to build it up. And one thing we're saying is like, all right, don't be foolish and just go get a credit card to go buy an Xbox type of thing. But also,
who does that?
I know, right? Who would do that? I had a lot of fun with it. But like, what are some practical things that young adults can do in building up a credit score? Because that's just so important when you want to get into a home and those sort of things, buy a vehicle, all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously one of the easiest ways is to get a credit card, right? But you have to understand like what you're messing with. So I did get a credit card in college, and it was, I mean, you know, they were outside, had the table set up, giving away free shirts. I'm like, oh, I want a free shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, what do I sign? Okay. And so I get this credit card, and I'm like, all right, how do I use this thing? Right. I mean, we knew, like my parents, we didn't talk about money at all. And so, I ended up putting a few charges. Well, the bill came in and I'm like, oh, I only have to pay $20, but I owe $40. Yeah, I'm just going to pay $20. So, you know, I was making my payments, did not know what, you know, interest meant. And so, I don't know, so many months later, I was clearly not paying attention. From what started as maybe a couple $100, maybe turned into like over $1,000.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have $1,000. Like, what do I do? And so I had an uncle actually who was financially savvy, and he talked to me about it. And I'm like, Uncle Paul, I didn't know, like, I didn't know how to pay it back. Like, he's like, Christina, what are you thinking? And so he paid that off for me. And after that moment, I was like, I am never getting a credit card again. Well, I eventually did, but I knew better. Yeah. And so, you know, I would say like, yes, if you want to use a credit card, like we're not anti credit card, but we are pro smart choice with credit card, that's right? Good. And so do like a $10, you know, make sure like you literally have the cash. Like you better be looking at the cash that you're gonna charge on that card, and then you pay it off.
And that cash comes from your spending bank.
Yes, from your spending, right? Because you do not want to be using payments account. Your payments account money really is like non-negotiable. Like there's a lock and chain over that thing. Like you don't touch that. So you're spending, you look at your spending and decide, well, what can I use, and then go from there and decide, okay, well, I can put $20 a month on a credit card, but I know I have it because it's here, and so I'm going to pay it. So you never spend without knowing that you have it, really.
Oof, that's good. Man, this has been great. I feel like you've answered so much of the questions I had. I don't know if you guys want to throw anything else out, but man, this was it's so good hearing this, and I think for young adults, I think it's going to be so beneficial for them as they're trying to navigate and figure out all the just life as they're pursuing careers and all that stuff. And I know for me, this is something I wish I would have implemented in my life. I feel like I knew some of this stuff, or at least I knew like, okay, do something wise with your money. But you just look at the world and you think, okay, I'm going to go. Like for me, whenever any sort of new income came, whether I spoke at an event, I was like, oh, I didn't think I was going to get paid this much, but this is great. My initial thought was, let's go on a trip. So that's just what we did. It was, and now it's like, we probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah. And so, you know, just having that wise of enjoying life, but also, you know, you have these financial responsibilities that you're called to go after. And once you get into that relationship status of now financial responsibilities of joining together with somebody else and y'all are responsible for that together, is so good because adulting is scary.
Yeah, it is.
That's a
Buying
question
a house
that I
is
had.
scary.
Yeah, because like based off of like I was just looking around the room last night at our young adult service, and then we had like 2 people I think there that have been recently engaged. So it's just cool to see like where everybody's at in life, but there's still a lot of single people in our service. But for anyone that's wondering, like, okay, they told us to talk about money, we're dating or we're getting close to that engagement season. Like, how would you even bring up that conversation? Because it can be kind of like, I mean, it's your business, you know, like what you want to do with your money is you, you know, and then there's that kind of like awkward tension. So if somebody is getting to that point where like, okay, well, eventually we're going to have like one money, you know, like we become one money. So
and that's the ideal situation because some people don't even do that.
A joint account, yeah.
You know, they keep their money separate. And I love how Jaime says it. And this is not, you know, we're not trying to throw shade at anybody who does this, but in Jaime's opinion, he's like, to me, that's a roommate. You know, if you say like, hey, you're going to pay the water, I'll pay the electricity, we'll pitch in.
We're going to go half on everything.
That's a roommate.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want a roommate. I want a wife.
Oh.
And so, you know, that I'm like, me too. I want to that too.
Yeah.
And then too, like, we didn't plan this, but I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom. So now Jaime's income is the only income. Does that mean like I have to ask permission to use his money? No, it's my money just as much as it's his. And so those are questions to really consider and talk about as you go through that engagement process. Because, I mean, we got lucky. I think it just kind of worked out. But those are really good questions. And to recognize, like, are you a spender? Are you a saver? Like, to understand our habits so that you can make them work together. Because, again, spending is not, you know, a bad thing. But you have to spend within your limits and within your reality.
Yeah, because the last episode we talked about a few red flags, like rapid fire questions. And I think that money is one of the things that we're, like, not even considering as a red flag because... You know, we always individualize it like so much. And yes, it is your individual life. But in friendships, in community, like we have to be aware, I think, of our friends, you know, and of the people that we're surrounding and help them in that way. So I think it is important to recognize like, okay, you need some help.
Yeah, like Jaime probably saw some red flags in my opinion. Like this girl does not bring her lunch, but
he's still pursuing.
But but you know, so we can recognize those, right? But then see how we can, flexible. I mean, if I was just like, no, I'm going to spend because you know my money, whatever. Well, then that might have been a thing, right? But I was just like, oh, you're gonna bring me lunch, I'll eat it, sure, right? Like so you just have to just kind of be aware of that, but don't be afraid to talk about it, because it's better to talk about it now, be awkward up front now than run into problems later.
More money, more problems.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, on that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Great first time guest.
Yeah, great first time guest.
So
if you want to be an every time guest on the Paper Room podcast, let us know.
Yes.
It was great. We are going to give away a copy of the Money Funnel System to one lucky winner. So follow us on social media at bt.youngadults if you're not doing that yet, and look for that giveaway. And I promise this book will be a blessing.
Money Funnel is on Instagram as well.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
At the Money Funnel System?
At the Money Funnel System.
Awesome. Go check those resources out as you desire to financially steward what God is giving you. And so, young adults, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm believing this conversation blessed you. Believe it's going to bless somebody else as well. So share it on your social media platforms. And we love you guys so much. And we'll see you all next time on the Paper Room Podcast.
Peace.
Amen.
Bye.